This is Boxing Tickets NI in association with SB Sports in Chaco. We're delighted to be joined finally. It's taken quite a long time to get this in the works. We're finally delighted to be joined by Dylan Moran. How are you, Dylan?
I'm very good, Steve. Thanks for having me on. And finally, yeah, it's proven to be hard work.
It definitely has. I think it's about 8 months in the reckoning. Obviously, we met you. Obviously, you just signed by Frank Warren, but it wasn't announced. You were in Birmingham at the Kakachi Woodstock card, and probably even before then, probably wanted to interview you. But I guess your name was in naming lights, obviously, in social media because of obviously I think certain things going on. So it was nearly sometimes impossible to get a hold of you. But finally, we have you in the bag. We have you trapped in your car. You're not allowed to leave. um, but obviously anybody we sort of bring on for the first time, as you know yourself in boxing, sometimes you're nearly only have a relevance whenever you have a fight, and people maybe don't understand the full backstory of where you've come from. But obviously we like to dig deep. What age did you start boxing and why?
Yeah, so I was set upon boxing, Steve, from a very early age, as far back as I can remember, really. Yeah, it's just been a part of my life from my earliest memories. Messing about the gym as a child, then finally got the gloves on. Then eventually, when I was old enough, I got to it.
Was there anything within the family? Was there any history of the family, or what was it got you into boxing? Was it just something that you probably maybe watched very early on the TV and enjoyed it, or what got you into boxing?
So my dad boxed, and he's got a few brothers that boxed. So, like I said, it was just boxing around me from a very young age. I used to go to the gym with my dad. He was training guys, and I just used to cycle around the gym on my bike as a child. That's the same gym I train in today. So yeah, it's been a long ride, that's for sure.
Definitely, I think it's from about the age of 5, so you just past the 20-year mark. I've obviously been involved in boxing, and I guess it's just your life now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lifestyle. I don't know any different, Steve. One that I'm very grateful for. The last number of years, I've been living the dream, so to speak. You know, if boxing was to end for me today, for whatever reason, I have no regrets. Like I said, I've lived a dream that was in my head coming up through my teenage years, and now it's all falling into play for me and has been for the last few years. So yeah, I'm very grateful for that.
Definitely, I was going to say it's times you sort of reminisce and look through your time span, the times you're going, Craigie, I've been through all this. Obviously, starting off as a young professional, who did you sort of look up to? Obviously, as in the sport, was there any sort of names you sort of looked at and were like, I want to be like him?
Yeah, so obviously being around the gyms and that all the time. Anytime there was a boxing show on TV, me and my dad used to get on the couch and watch it. And them days for me were the Bernard Dunn days. I vividly remember all Bernard Dunn's fights and sitting there watching, thinking that's what I want to do. And I went and I've made an attempt at it. So here we are.
It's good when you hear that. Obviously, you keep something close by in terms of an Irish fighter, because I guess sometimes people make the dream of going, I want to be a Prince Nassim or Muhammad Ali or a Mike Tyson. It's probably more realistic for you to become like a Bernard Dunn rather than a Mike Tyson sort of thing. So your goals were sort of kept in a way where it was realistic to you.
Yeah, he used to be on RT2, the Bernard Dunn days, hunky dory. You seen the support he was getting. I always vividly remember the green gloves. And yeah, just as a child, them things stick with you, them special nights. And just thinking, I remember thinking, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to try and be. And like I said, I've gone and made an attempt at it. And so far, it's going okay.
And obviously talk to me then about amateur boxing. Obviously, how did I guess the early on days in boxing, I guess, it's until you get punched in the face for the first time, it's really you really enjoy it. But you'd obviously plenty of success as an amateur. You obviously boxed for Ireland. You'd obviously countless obviously county and Irish titles. How did amateur boxing sort of feel for you?
Amateur boxing was a great spell for me. Plenty of county and Munster titles. I think I was in 2 or 3 All Ireland finals. Couple of bad decisions ended up putting me off amateur boxing, but again, was a great time in my life. Met some amazing people, and yeah, that was everything to me back then. Uh, Trying to get on the Irish team, had a couple of caps for the Irish team, and boxing America as an amateur. A great time in my life, and like I said, just as I got a bit older, 1 or 2 bad decisions then kind of put me off it. But that doesn't put a damn taste in my mouth. Amateur boxing was a great time for me.
we see it probably more and more, and obviously there was one obviously was on Twitter the other day. Obviously, I think it's a young Scottish boxer obviously got a bad decision in a final. Does it sort of, when you look at bad decisions that happen in amateur boxing now, does it just sort of go, it's not something new, it's always been there? And I guess sometimes it's better to get yourself away from that environment when it's sort of affecting you.
Yeah, definitely. It just broke my heart as a kid, and that's what made me leave. But I think I think bad decisions and kind of robberies and that is, it's a part of every game. You know, it's frowned upon in amateur boxing, all right. But look at the pro boxing. Look at Josh Taylor and Catterall not so long ago, and I could name a whole lot of other fights. So it's happening everywhere, you know. But my reason for leaving amateur boxing back then was one or two bad decisions, and I just said, look, I don't want to do this anymore, and that was that. But I had a great few years as an amateur.
And sort of when you had fallen out of love, obviously, of amateur boxing, you probably must have had a role model in your early days of Jean-Claude Van Damme. You decided to become a kickboxer.
Yeah, so my dad would have kickboxed also, and a couple of my uncles. So it was boxing and kind of kickboxing. And when I finished amateur boxing, I was too young to go pro boxing, which but it was always the end goal. And I just ended up kickboxing by chance with Billy O'Sullivan here in Waterford, and what a whirlwind of a few years that was. You know, me and my dad had this attitude of anyone, anywhere, and we literally travelled all over the world again, kickboxing and fighting some of the top level guys. Picked up numerous titles, um, some amazing moments, some amazing nights, and yeah, that was another great few years for me.
Did you find that obviously switching from, just been punching people to obviously then using your feet and things like that? Did it sort of take you a bit of time to adjust, or was it always something that you maybe done some kickboxing sort of in the background coming up?
No, it used to be all hands, and you have to throw a certain number of kicks per round. So when I was fighting, you just used to hear my dad shouting, "You have to kick, you have to kick." So I just get all the kicks out of the way in the first minute, and then I just go boxing.
But it's I guess, when people look at, boxing's probably the hardest and toughest sport in the world they have at times. Like you could, I look at probably MMA sort of in a way where you could be the best puncher in the world, you could be the best kicker in the world, but obviously somebody's a wrestler to get you down, and that's it, it's over. It nearly takes it to a different realm, and you sort of you question your mindset, and then you go, well, is boxing the toughest sport in the world if MMA has got so many different traits to it to get to the very top?
Yeah, this is it. Some of the toughest fights I've had to date have been in a kickboxing ring. You know, they're two different games for sure, but some of the toughest fights and moments I've had in the ring have definitely been kickboxing.
Would you say it's obviously getting kicked in the face is probably a lot tougher than getting punched?
That's part of it, yeah.
And then obviously you bring knees and would elbows be involved with kickboxing?
I stayed away from the knees and elbows, being honest, Steve. The kicks and punches were enough.
I don't blame you there. Um, but obviously, then like what changed? Obviously, you come back to boxing and you turned pro in 2017. What sort of changed with the kickboxing? It just like, I want to get back. Did time sort of heal wounds of amateur boxing that you then turned pro?
Yeah, and I was after coming of age, you know, and I got some great experience in the kickboxing. Like I said, some really tough fights that matured me into a man. And I come of age then, and I had my last world championships in the kickboxing out in Spain one summer, and I said after this I'm done with kickboxing. And yeah, I announced that I was moving to Manchester. That was all done beforehand to start my professional career with Kieran Farrell in Manchester, and yeah, it just took off from there really.
And pretty much, so you made, so it's coming up now 5 years, obviously, since you made your debut. Obviously, I guess it probably makes you feel like an old man, but you're only 27, so you're still obviously probably relatively young and relatively fresh in the game. But five fights was obviously within your first year. Was it probably more a help in a way, because obviously they adjust back to boxing again after being away for a few years at kickboxing? Did you find that debut year was beneficial, the fact that five fights, or maybe wanted more?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I had been with Kieran before the fights began for a good while, you know, getting the training, getting the sparring in. And like I said, even when I was kickboxing, I never really changed from a boxer. You know, I was just in getting the fights and getting the experience, but majority of what I done in the ring was boxing. Um, yeah, so there was no transition at all. It was all basically the same for me. And you know, credit to Kieran Farrell. he brought my fights quick and fast and got my record right up there. So yeah.
And obviously in the 2018, then obviously, you had your first fight in Ireland as a pro, and within 2 years you'd sort of raced to 10-0, and it was sort of, it was everything's obviously on a crest of a wave. You obviously signed to Star Boxing. The American Dream was obviously becoming apparent. But obviously what was a dream turned into obviously a nightmare. You'd obviously your first pro defeat to Dennis Okoth. Was it sort of, I guess when you've been an amateur boxing, obviously you've been robbed and gone to kickboxing, you've success, and then you come back into pro boxing. Did obviously the first defeat sort of as a professional, how did that sort of, because I guess like anything, people dream of being Floyd Mayweather and going their whole career undefeated. How did the sort of defeat in America take? Was it really, really hard for you to take?
Yeah, at the moment, in that moment in time, heartbreaking, Steve. Absolutely heartbreaking. What a wake up call! What a shock to the system. It was very hard to accept. It was very hard to take. And like I said, at that moment, it was a nasty time. Sitting here today, years later, it's the best thing that ever happened. I've said it and I'll keep saying it. And, I had heard people say before, oh, my defeat was the best thing that ever happened. And you would think, are they lying? Are they just saying it? It's happened to me. It's the best thing that ever happened. What a learning curve. What a growing experience. It's not about the rise. It's about the response. And look what I've done since that night. My career has never been better. Had I won that night in America, things could have been completely different. I probably wouldn't be talking to you today. So instead of it knocking me off track, it nudged me in the right direction, in my opinion.
And I guess I guess that shows the character of a person and things like that you can sort of overcome, your bad moments. I've always been of the belief that, if someone races to 20-0 and then gets a defeat, it's harder for them to come back from. Whereas, when you've 10-0 and it's happened, the mistakes that sort of built into your game, you can sort of go back easier than it would have been if you were on 20-0, so it was easier for you to come back from.
Yeah, definitely. And, people say to me, oh, I should have took that fight. That was a big opportunity in America. I took it. I have absolutely no regrets. It couldn't have happened at a better time, as you've just mentioned. And like I said, look where my career went after that. And my response to that was because them first 10 fights, people talk about coming up through the gutter, Steve, and it's said loosely nowadays. I've come up through the gutter, bro. There's no one can say any different. I sold the tickets. Anything can go wrong in a professional boxing career has happened to Dylan Moran. It's there. It's documented. Some stories are hard to believe, even when I watch them back myself, but I've been through it. And I had great resilience at that time. Hence, when that happened, I said, you know what? It is what it is. These things happen. Let's go again. And that's exactly what I've done, although it's easier said than done.
Mm-hmm. And definitely, I would say, sort of going back to it as well, you always seem to have a strong frame because, I can remember obviously you were signed, I think it was signed to a promoter and then all of a sudden the promoter disappeared and it was like, well, here, what's going on? Where am I fighting? What I'm going to do next? And, harder sort of men sometimes could probably go, oh, well, that's the end of it. I'm going to have to go and find a real job and sort of not box anymore. But your resilience kept you going, and probably from that first career defeat, probably it helped you probably more ways you could probably imagine.
Yeah, and walking away at them times probably would have been the sensible thing to do, Steve, if I'm being honest. And it was mentioned to me by parents, by family members on numerous occasions over the years. But for some reason, I just wouldn't listen, and I don't know why. And I trusted my gut, I stuck with it, and then all these good things start happening for me. And now I'm of the mindset of no matter what goes wrong today, I have to keep going because you don't know what's lying ahead for you. No matter what it is you're doing, things are going to go wrong. You're going to have bad days, more bad than good. But you just have to keep chipping away. You have to just keep knocking on that door and somebody's going to answer.
Definitely. I was going to say, it's hopefully, people obviously watching in on this can obviously take the inspiration you've sort of had. You've had 6 fights obviously since you're obviously your only defeat as a pro. I think it's 6 fights. I can't remember if obviously one of your fights from the way BoxRec works. Sometimes obviously disappear fights. I know Tiernan Bradley and
in Poland hasn't gone up yet. Why I don't know, but it's not gone up. So I think I've 17 fights at the moment. I think.
Yeah, so 17-1. I think because I remember, was it Tiernan Bradley's debut and Tony Brown and things like that? They've all fights missing because of that, you know.
Yes.
So it's obviously sometimes somebody doing the research. Whenever you get your next fight, you go, what's Dylan Moran's record here? We look at box record, or we ask Dylan what it actually is, you know.
Yeah.
It's not that you're adding any on just for the sake of it. It's just that fight card from Poland has never been added on the box rec.
Didn't get uploaded for whatever reason.
I guess obviously it wouldn't be fair if we obviously didn't mention obviously your sparring with Conor McGregor. Conor's obviously done amazing things for quite a few boxers. Obviously Tiernan, obviously Conor Wallace, yourself, Willow Hayden. But how did the sort of sparring with Conor come about? Was it sort of something that was always in the works, or?
No, it's just like my career has been all along, Steve, just completely out of the blue, completely random. You know, do you want to go and spar Conor McGregor? I'm like, yeah, obviously. Jumped on a plane. That's how it just happened. Ended up in Lagos in Portugal. And little did I know what I was in for. I was only talking to my mother yesterday about that point last year. I was actually watching Conor giving an interview in the Black Forge with the Mac Life. And I'm looking at the interview and I'm in awe of him. It's Conor McGregor. And I'm thinking, yo, you spent 12, 13 weeks with him last year. And I'm kind of regret that I didn't enjoy it more than I did. But I think I was just blinded by the situation. I was blinded by where I was. And it's only now looking back, you realize where you were and what was actually going on. And like I said, another amazing part of my career and one that I'm very grateful for.
And I guess, it's like anything, it's the exposure you sort of have been in this company. I know a lot of it's sort of kept offline because they don't want to give away things for fights and things like that. But like, I guess, like anybody, you're going to be starstruck when you come across someone like Conor because he's such a global, superstar. It's like they say hello to him, what do you say the first words are? What's happening, Conor? How are you, Conor? It's like you practice it for a while and then it's like, how's it going? And you just sort of wave and not speak.
Yeah, you'll be rehearsing before you meet him. How am I going to go about this?
It's crazy, and obviously, as I say, I was down in the Black Forge a couple of months ago, and there's sort of, you don't expect if you're going to come across him, but if you did come across him, it's like, do you turn into fanboy and you go, do they want my picture taken, or do you stand in the background and go, I wish I did that? Then for you as a boxer, obviously you have to get in the ring and spar with him. You're going, like, I can't go full pelt here because if I hurt him, I'm the worst person in the world. Everybody's going to hate me because I put him out of the fight. You're sort of stuck in that crossfire.
Yeah, you just have to read between the lines and just put on a brave face and play the part. Like, I'll always remember the first bar when Conor walked into the room with no top on and that big gorilla tattoo that I've only ever seen on the telly was strutting around in front of me. I'll never forget it. And like I said, they're moments that I'm really grateful for. I feel blessed that it was me got to be in that position. Only few people ever will. I'm still a fan of Conor McGregor. I'm still a fanboy, and I think I always will be. But I just look back at everything I've been through in my own career and the bad times and the struggles and, the challenges. And I believe that's what I got for that. I went through all that and there was my turn of good luck, so yeah.
And obviously off the back of that as well, I guess, I don't really like to sort of speak about Jake Paul sort of in ways because I guess it's like one of them. It's like Marmite, you either like him or you hate him. But I always wanted to clear it with you before I come on first because I'm not someone that's for clickbait. I don't interview you. I don't interview for clickbait. But we sort of came to an agreement, sort of, in the fact that what happened obviously with Jake Paul. When you sort of look back on it now, Jake Paul done you a huge favor.
Yeah, without a doubt, Steve. And when people mention boxing to me,
I think I've lost you a wee second here, Dylan.
a mad few months to be fair, and no one could have predicted it. But it is what it is. Looking back at that, even as well as the McGregor thing, I'm like, how did I end up arguing with Jake Paul? It's crazy. Sometimes it's hard to comprehend, and when I'm an old man and I'm retired and I'm sitting at a bar somewhere, I'll have a couple of tales to tell, that's for sure.
And sort of, I guess it's like anything now. You'd obviously said you would go and spar him, or obviously you'd fight him and things like that. There was a weight difference and everything else. The key fights around about 190. You're obviously, when you hopefully next step in the ring, you could be about 140. So there's probably a guts of about 4 stone of difference. But I was just like, I don't care. I'm a fighting man. I'll go and do it.
Yeah, I was talking more of a fight, not a boxing match, you know what I mean? And I don't think weight classes kind of matter then. And at the same time, I was very angry when that happened. You know, my only loss, and Jake Paul shared it all over the world, and it got millions of views on different platforms. And yeah, look, it is what it is. In the end, it ended up benefiting me massively. Yeah, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
You'd nearly hope you'd nearly do it once a year, sort of thing, if it keeps growing your
Yeah, yeah,
profile, you know?
yeah. It did get a bit hectic though at one stage. You know, when you're mentioned alongside the likes of Jake Paul, your social media and that can become very toxic. The abuse comes left, right, and centre, and that followed on for a couple of months afterwards. You know, but it's all died down now, thankfully.
And that's, I guess that's the one thing, where you get the publicity. Sometimes you're always going to get the haters and everything else. It's people that cry for attention. Obviously it can be very tough to come across. Thankfully, for what we do, we don't really sort of get any sort of hate mail or any sort of things, because we're just in it there to try and help the sport. But for you as a boxer, it obviously must be tough to come by at times. Let's say you have one wave where your social media goes crazy because everybody's mentioning you alongside Jake Paul, Conor McGregor, and then all of a sudden you're getting hate mail and you're going, why the hate? I've got enough hate from Jake Paul from the video. I don't need any more of it.
I think it's just part and parcel, Steve. You know, if you've got no haters in this life, you're not doing enough. You know, and that's just the fact of it, and that's the world we live in. You know, let them be motivators to you. You know, you can't avoid them. They're just part of everyday life. They're everywhere, and it is what it is. But yeah, the Jake Paul thing for me was a mad time. Hard to comprehend, but in a way, I'm kind of glad it's all over. You know, I just want to push on my own career now and get what I started out to get.
What would your feelings be towards Jake now? Would it sort of, it'd be like, you done me a favor? Would it sort of, would it still be one of them if you met him in person where you'd be like, I don't really like you, but thank you for what you've done?
Yeah, you know, with time, feelings change. If I was to bump into Jake Paul, the first thing I would say to him was pull him on what was said and say, "Yo, I'm here now. Have you got something to say about it?" But at the same time, I didn't really know who Jake Paul was until he started arguing with Conor McGregor. I respect the guy. Fair play to you. You know, I looked up his story after that happened, and you can't knock the hustle of him and his brother, you know, regardless of my opinion on him, which doesn't really make much of a difference. You know, give credit where it's due. The guy's absolutely smashing it. You know, love him or hate him, you can't take that away from him.
It's one of them, I guess, as I say, I don't like to sort of put things up, because I know when people like yourself that work so hard in a sport for years to get the positions you get to, they're obviously then where, and on the other hand, Jake and obviously Logan obviously built their YouTube following. They obviously created such a demand that was only they've got there through their hard work on social media. So they sort
Yeah.
of they cheated the system, but in some ways they probably showed a lot of boxers, well, here, if you want to make it big in the sport, you also need to have your social media presence at the same time.
Yeah, this is it. You know, they've sent out a good lesson to boxers and other sports people. You need to make yourself relevant. You know, the fights is one side of it, but the world we live in today, you need to keep your name out there. You need to promote yourself. There's nobody going to do it for you. And regardless of your opinion on social media or anything like that, that's the world we live in, and there's no changing it. You know, so either go with it or get left behind.
Definitely is. And obviously, I guess when COVID times were tough and obviously all that was going on, out of the end of obviously COVID, you obviously were announced to say we signed with Frank Warren. Was it sort of, I guess I sort of mentioned to the obviously Anto Cacace the other days also with Frank, but obviously they have that strong promoter behind you now. Is it sort of like another tick box exercise in life to go, and now you have someone that can actually take me to the next level?
Yeah, this is it, Steve. So when I started professional boxing, you know, I live in the real world. You know, everything is black and white with me. You're good or you're bad. You can or you can't. And I knew, like, you need to get with Frank or Eddie. You know, that's the end goal here. You need to get with Frank and Eddie. And I knew the only way a kid from Waterford can get these guys' attention is by making myself valuable. How can I do that? I said my record. That's why I built my record up the way I did. It had to be done. You know, like I said, I had a plan from the start. And thankfully it paid off. I got my record up there through all the hard work of getting that up there. The McGregor thing and the Jake Paul thing happened, which gave me all the publicity. And lo and behold, I landed Frank Warren, you know. So that seed was in my head years ago, and it all come to fruition for me.
And it sort of seems to be a plan that's well put in place. Like when you sort of mention, obviously, I know that you would never shy away from the fact that you probably, obviously, other than your defeat, you probably never had a really good sort of strong test in a fight. Sort of, in some ways, where what you've been through in life and things like that, you just want to have a test to obviously show that you're not obviously just a boxer with a padded record, and obviously Jake Paul and Conor McGregor sort of helping to build your profile. It's now you can show your talents in the ring.
Steve, 100%. So like I said, starting off boxing, yeah, I said, right, how do I make myself valuable for Frank already? The record. Regardless of people's opinion on journeyman or whatever, the record means everything. Got my record up there, stuck with it, got it up there. Was a lot more difficult than I anticipated it to be. Got it up there. Then the Jake Paul and McGregor thing happens. Lo and behold, I'm in Frank Warren's office. I don't go around saying I've beat everyone and anyone, because I haven't. But I've got to where I needed to get to. And now that I'm here, this week alone, I've messaged my manager 4 times. I'd say he's going to watch this interview. I can't tell lies. Bro, anybody at 140. Now that I'm here, my same attitude from my kickboxing days. Anybody at 140. As long as the fight makes sense and the money's right, I don't really need to know who it is. Do you know what I mean? I'm long enough in the game now, Steve, and I'm just waiting for my opportunity now.
So we're just resuming the interview. Obviously, Dylan, obviously, phone got a wee bit too hot in the car. The topics were too hot to handle, and the phone gave up. So we're just resuming the interview. I was sort of mentioning, obviously, the fact that obviously Fury White was announced, and I guess your ideal plan was to be on that card.
Yeah.
Obviously, when obviously the opportunity to be in that card obviously left, do you now obviously look to the next card and obviously your manager and obviously Frank and everything else and go, get me on this, get me a fight, I want to get back out there?
Yeah. And like I said, I was used to the fights coming quick and fast, Steve, and I know I'm complaining about the fight dates now, but when the fights become that bit bigger, it's to be expected that they slow down and everything has to be right and whatnot, TV dates and budgets. And, in Frank Warren's defense, you can only imagine his office with the Fury fight and White going on at the moment, So, look, control the controllables. I have no power over that, no say over that. And complaining about it isn't going to change it. All I can do is use the time wisely and stay in the gym. And that's exactly what I've been doing. I'm keeping the head down and training hard.
And obviously the move down to 140, I think probably the lightest you've obviously fought in a fight's been about 143, I think. So obviously there's not much more of a difference to come, I guess. You'll not make 140 unless it's a title fight. So obviously probably maybe your next fight maybe potentially going to be about 143, 144 and gradually come down to 140.
Yeah, last I heard was we're pushing for a title fight. We're pushing for a ranking belt, 10 rounds. Bear with me. So that's where I'm at the moment, Steve. That's what I'm hearing on the other end of the phone. And like I said, I've no control over it. So I'm just in the gym. I'm staying on my toes and I'm just waiting on a call, really, playing the waiting game.
And I guess that's a tough thing sometimes whenever you've had 17, 18 fights within a few year period. And then now all of a sudden, when you're a big promoter, you can't get the 4, 5, 6 fights in a year. It's like 2, maybe 3, and you're going, what am I supposed to do in the rest of this time? I want to fight.
Yeah.
It's I guess it's a tough aspect of boxing sometimes, but they reach the very top. You sort of have to go along with their guidelines.
Yeah, this is here. I always say if, how could I put it? The external in boxing is harder than the internal. What I mean by that is the fighting is the easy part. And unless you're involved in boxing, I don't think you could understand that or grasp it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just getting to the ring is the hard part. Getting when you're in the ring is the enjoyable part. It's the part that you've been trained to do. But just getting there, making the fights happen and all that lately has seemed to be the difficult part.
And you'd sort of moved back. You'd moved to England. Sorry, at a stage of last year. Have you decided to move back home to sort of, what's going on with the training side there?
Yeah. So same again. Back at the beginning of my career, Steve. Like I said, I was like, right, I know where I'm going, and I'll do absolutely anything I can to get there. So most of my career, I've always been on the road. I've always been away from home. And they were sacrifices that I made. We talk about McGregor and Jake Paul. They that just didn't happen out of thin air. That happened because I packed a bag as a kid and moved to Manchester on my own and lived in the gym for 2 years. people don't know that side of things, you know. Lived all around the world on my own, you know, just trying to get there. And, you know, it's all them sacrifices, it's all them struggles that pay off, you know, if you can understand that. And I was over in Manchester again before Christmas. And, you know, I've been all around the world. I've gathered loads and loads of valuable experience. I know what works for me and what doesn't work. And I had come home for Christmas to go back training with my dad, who has been with me since day one. And things just felt right. You know, most people I think thought it was a sign of me taking the foot off the gas. By no means. You know, if I have to go to the moon to get to where I want to go, I'm going to go to the moon. I moved home because I felt right. I was happier at home this time around. You know, like you mentioned, I'm 27 now. I'm not. When I was in Manchester previously, you want to go to the big shows. You want to get the backstage passes. You want to meet Frank. You want to meet Eddie. You want to meet Fury and Joshua. And that stuff excited you. And that stuff got you out of bed in the morning. Fast forward a few years, I've done all that. You know, that doesn't excite me anymore. I just want to train and get the fights. And I can do that at home. You know, and I went back to what got me to where I am today. Back, me and my dad, grafting hard. You know, me and him in the gym on our own every day. Nice and quiet. Exactly how I like it. And we're putting the work in, Steve.
It's probably been the most enjoyable videos I've always watched. You obviously and your dad in the gym and you know, and everything else. And I guess when you keep it within the same family, you know, you might as well give your dad a few extra pound obviously in helping you out rather than obviously helping someone else out. So you keep it in your own family. His pride keeps going because, you know, there's not only you, obviously boxes now, obviously your younger brother Mason fights as well. So if it's giving your dad some more experience to help with your brother coming up, even better.
Of course, that's one of the reasons that I left out. So I was in Manchester last time round, and my little brother's boxing career is really taken off now. And a lot of my interactions with him was on Zooms, it was on FaceTime, it was on WhatsApp, and he was having all these fights, and I wasn't there, and it was just doing my head in. And that was one of the main reasons for me being unhappy over there. You know, I felt like I was missing out. I needed to be at home, and besides that, the training obviously felt good back home, and I was happier back home. And now I'm back here, and you know, it's me and my little brother in the gym every day, and you know, I couldn't have asked to have it any better.
How do you sort of find that? Because, you know, when we sort of mentioned the start of the interview, obviously you were looking up to obviously Bernard Dunn and things like that. How does obviously it look up to obviously your younger brother sees you as his role model and sort of wants to chase a lot of what you've done? Do you find him sort of having to push him back and go, you need to sort of learn these wee sort of lessons that I've been through, or you might go through yourself?
Steve, so I jumped into the world of professional boxing blind. Nobody set a path before me. There was no blueprint. I just said, right, I'm going to move over to the heart of boxing in England and find my way. And along the way, I made more mistakes than you could think of. But I've made them all now, so he's not going to have to. You know, he knows how important an amateur career is, whereas I didn't back then. You know, and he's making the most of his amateur career. And then when he's about to go professional, when the time is right, if he goes professional, I've got enough contacts and knowledge now to make sure there's a decent pathway there for him.
And that's the most important thing. Sometimes when you can look out for your own family and show him the right path in life, then, you know, ideally probably, and I know you're not a selfish person, you'll want Mason to go on and do more than probably you've done.
Steve, never mind me. This kid is the one, and I'm not saying it because he's my little brother. You know, 14 years of age and gifted, and I don't say that loosely, gifted in the ring, you know, and it's just about keeping him grounded now and bringing him along just at the right pace.
He obviously had title success there recently, is that correct?
Yeah, so he picked up his first Irish title and he's going for a second Irish title in 2 weeks. The All Irelands are on again.
Is it easy for you to watch your brother obviously fighting, or is it really tough for you to watch him?
Oh no, I love it. The harder it is for him, the better.
you want him to have a hard test. You sort of want to bring the best out of him early on, because obviously I help him confidence wise.
Yeah, exactly. And I know how important the tough fights at them that age was for me. They're the building blocks of what you want to do, Steve. So the tougher the fights I see him getting, you know, the better it is for me, because I know that's going to stand to him in years to come. You know, and on top of that, we like a good fight. Now it's a tough love attitude in this house.
Do you spar regularly and things like that? Obviously, I know you probably may not want to take it as tough on him, but obviously he's going full pelt on you. Do you obviously share any?
We don't spar. He's a bit too small for that, but we have a deal that when he's 18 and I'm like whatever age, we're going to the gym and we're going to see what's what and who's who. We've shaken hands on it and all.
I guess that says, when brothers fight, it's like your dad will go, I'm not even getting anywhere near the ring, I'm staying well out of it.
Oh no, my father be in the middle, hyping the two of us up.
But obviously, jet setting as well. Obviously, I guess you seem to be a man, Don, that obviously loves his holidays and breaks. I guess in the sport of boxing, sometimes you always have to take what you can. You seem to sort of love the holiday sort of travel lifestyle. Is that sort of something you've always done, or I guess has that probably helped to redevelop you as a person?
I just got used to it, I suppose, from boxing, Steve. I get a lot of trips as a sparring partner. Like my stint in Liechtenstein, that would have been most of it. I was based there solely, but I was jet setting from there all the time because I was earning good money in Liechtenstein. I had a dream contract, one that if it was put on paper, you wouldn't believe it. It was like sometimes if something is too good to be true, it often is. But yeah, I come home. I'm blessed here to have our own gym. I have a good couple of clients that I personal train, just boxing work. I save that money. I get my own training done, and then when I need a break from here because it can get a bit monotonous, I just put a bag on my back, and 90% of the time when I'm gone, Steve, I'm on my own, and I enjoy that. I think because of the life I lived through boxing, you become a bit of an introvert. You get used to living on your own. You get used to doing everything on your own. So yeah, most of them holidays I go on, I will be on my own, and I enjoy it.
Definitely, and I guess that helps to reward yourself for obviously hard work and things like that as well. Sometimes people forget the reward part of things, and then life gets
Hey,
tougher.
yeah,
And
you have to live as well, Steve. You know what I mean? Yeah, you have to leave the hair down. You have to go and just be human. Like I said, when you're in full swing in camp, it's taxing stuff mentally and physically, and it's just about getting out of that environment for a week, getting away from the people that you're looking at every day, twice a day, and you come back with the batteries recharged and the mindset is fresh and you're ready to go again. So yeah, it's important to get away.
it definitely isn't. Sort of probably finally finishing off. Obviously, 27 now. What does the future hold for you as a boxer?
Steve, I just want the big fights, in the most respectful way possible. As long as the fight makes sense and it makes money, I'm good to go. Ideally, I would love a couple of big fights in Ireland. That would be the dream. But like you said, I'm signed with Frank Warren now. So the opportunities are endless when they do come along. But yeah, the big fights, the big names, I want to be fighting and have little kids sitting down like I was watching Bernard Dunn, and when I say these things, I don't say them lightly. I will stick at boxing and I will keep putting the graft in until that happens. I think I've shown that throughout my career. I've gone on many interviews saying I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I go and I do it. And I'm telling you today that I'm going to be involved in them fights one way or another. By hook or by crook, you'll see my name up there. And just go in, shoot my shot, as always. And yeah, wherever it ends, Steve, I'll be happy knowing I went that boxing and I gave it 100%.
Because I always like to give people the opportunity, obviously, to thank sponsors and things like that, because obviously, as you well know, obviously you've come from the ticket selling background and sort of build your way up at times. Is there obviously any sponsors you'd like to thank, or obviously anybody for
Of
obviously things they've
course,
done for you?
Gaines Kitchen in Manchester, massive sponsor of mine from day one, from the very first time I put a boxing glove on over there. My protein have been behind me now the last while. Another massive sponsor, the factory here in Waterford. I've had a couple of after parties there. The support I get from the people here in Waterford, Spar Shop in Ballybeg, Nigel O'Sullivan. We've the gym above the shop. Without them, I'd have nowhere to train. Yeah, the list goes on. There's many people part of the wheel, Steve. It's not just me. And without them people, this won't be happening. So a massive thank you to all of them.
Definitely is. Well, Dylan, obviously, it's as I always say to everybody, it's always a pleasure to speak to him. But I guess when we get you on for the first time, we've always had our back and forth and Instagram and everything else talking away. But they finally
Yeah,
sit down and have a good chat with you. I guess sometimes I can, I can know more of your story and I can know when things have happened. I was like, right now, I understand that. And I guess for me, sometimes it's more of me understanding. Hopefully, people watching have obviously liked the same aspect as well. But I guess like anything, it's like get some fight news and let's get another one nailed on. It's
yeah,
sort of
and,
it's that.
and get the ball rolling again. I'm sure I'll have fight news soon, Steve. I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I'm in the gym and I'm working hard. Was delighted to jump on today. The pleasure's been mine. Thank you very much. I know it's taken a while, but we finally got it nailed.
Definitely. Well, listen, thanks very much for tuning in with us, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Steve, have a top day. Thank you.
Cheers, Dylan. Take care. Thanks. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.